New York City. Now, I'm sure you've heard almost everything there is to hear about New York City, but sometimes people don't really go into details. So today I'm gonna go through a couple of things that I feel like doesn't get enough attention and go really into detail on it so you really understand. Now, I moved here in 2018. So I've lived here for about 6 years now. So I think I got a pretty good idea of what it's like to come here from another city or another state. So the first thing that I have to talk about, and I know people talk about it all the time, you see it in the news, you see influencers talking about it, you see so many people talking about it. But the first thing is money. How expensive really is it to live in New York? So I'm going to think about this in a couple of ways, because if you're thinking about moving here, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. If you're just moving by yourself and you're young and you don't really care about having roommates, which, let's be honest, isn't the best thing in the world, but
now see if I can stop by tonight. You come with me? Sure. All right, great. Hey, can I use your laptop?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. What the fuck?
Holy shit, dude, what's the matter? What happened? What's going on?
There's so much porn.
if you're young, you can tolerate it. So if you're thinking about moving here and you don't care about who you live with and your budget is not really that high, you can always just move in with some random strangers. You can go on any platform from Zillow to Trulia or even Gypsy Housing on Facebook and find a couple of guys or girls or whoever, or maybe even a mix of both, who need one or two roommate like immediately, ASAP. So this is also one of the cities that you're going to have to be prepared to move in like less than 30 days. Because if say you're trying to move here 3 months from now, any apartment that you look at is not going to be available 3 months from now. You almost have to give yourself like a 30-day window to look at apartments because they're going to be gone by the time you're ready to move. But so back to my point. You're just, say you're Daniel from the Midwest and you want to move to New York City. You don't really care who you live with. You just want to come here because maybe you just graduated. Maybe you're a musician. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to get into tech. It doesn't matter. But let's just say that you don't care who you live with. So you might go on an app or you might go on a website and see somebody who's looking for a roommate, ready to move in immediately. And that usually is the cheapest way to go because oftentimes you're just replacing somebody who moved out. So you're probably just going to have to pay whatever the monthly rent is. And that usually can be a lot cheaper. That's what I did when I first moved here. I literally moved to an apartment with 5 other people or 4 other people, and someone had their boyfriend or girlfriend living in the room.
It's a good time.
Yeah, right.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
This is why I don't drink.
Oh.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine. I mean, I'm not listening to you guys fornicate all night long, thrusting
Okay.
and pumping.
And I was only there a month, but I only had to pay $800 to move in there. And that's it. I didn't have to pay a security deposit. I didn't have to pay a broker fee. I didn't have to pay first month or last month or none of that. So that's probably the cheapest way that you can get in New York. But the only downside is you're probably not going to know who your roommates are. And people are nasty. So they might be nasty. They might stink. They might have animals. The place might not have any amenities. But nonetheless, you will have a place to lie your head down at night. And you will be able to turn the key and the door will open. So that's one option. But if you're moving here by yourself with no roommates or no partner or anything like that, that's where it can get a little pricey, especially if you are looking for a studio space or a 1-bedroom or just your own space in general. Because oftentimes you'll see on these websites that you have to pay not only the first month's rent, but you also have to pay last month's rent and a security deposit. And in some rare cases, you have to pay all 3 of those and a broker's fee. But oftentimes you'll probably only have to pay 2, maybe 3 of those. But nonetheless, that can add up really quick. So let's do some quick math real quick. Say the rent is, $3,000. It's you're trying to move into an apartment. You don't want any roommates. You're moving here for a new job. And you're looking at a rent that's about $3,000. Hey, that's not bad. You can swing that. So you zoom in a little bit closer and you see that you need to pay last month's on top of first month's rent. So that's already $6,000 that you have to fork over just to get into the space. Sometimes you have to pay a broker's fee. And they will always tell you if you do have to pay that on the website that you're looking at, broker's fee or no broker's fee, you can use a filter to filter that out. But oftentimes that is the same as the rent, sometimes more. So let's just assume that it's the same as the rent. So you have $3,000 first month, $3,000 last month, and $3,000 broker's fee. That's $9,000 just to get into the apartment. Okay, you don't have to pay the first month, you don't have to pay the last month, but nonetheless, who has $9,000 just to move into an apartment that's like 600 square feet?
I'm tired of this, man. I'm sick of worrying about lit cars. I'm sick of worrying about the government. I can't eat. I'm broke, nigga. I'm broke.
That probably doesn't have a washer and dryer. Maybe it does if it's $3,000, but who knows what kind of neighborhood it's in because of the prices these days. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. But if you are coming with a partner or if you're coming with a best friend, then you can always split it. And that's where things become a little bit easier. So splitting $9,000 is a lot easier than just dropping $9,000 like that. So that's something that a lot of people don't really tell you. But I'm sure it's like that in a lot of other cities. But just because the rent is so high here, some of those numbers just seem outrageous. In addition to that, you're going to have to pay an electric bill. And I'm going to talk about that for a second because Con Edison, what is going on? The website that we have to pay our electricity bill in New York is called Con Edison. And that website barely works. I mean, barely.
Barely.
I think it only works between the hours of 9 and 6 a.m. It's 2024. What kind of website only works between those hours? That makes no sense. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, when I go on that website and I try to pay my bill, I can't do it. It's got to be on purpose at some point, right? So you're gonna have to pay an electric bill, and depending on your consumption, it's gonna vary. It can vary between 100 to 200, 200 to 300. If your place is huge and you guys have really inefficient heating and cooling systems, then it can run you even higher than that. But you can always get on a payment plan and sort of, space out your payments over time. So I would definitely recommend that if you're conscious about your energy bill or energy consumption. In addition to that, you're gonna have to pay a gas bill. Now, it depends on how much you cook. If you cook a lot, then you're gonna have to pay a lot. Me and my girlfriend, we cook a lot. But still, the bill doesn't really go higher than maybe $110. And when we don't cook at all, or if we were out of town that month, then it's probably around $35, $45. So the gas bill isn't too crazy, especially if you're splitting it with roommates. You don't have to worry about it that much, because a good thing about New York is you don't have to pay for water. So you can consume as much water as you want. And they say that New York's water is pretty safe. I think I believe them on that. I haven't had any problems yet. But those are really the bulk of the bills that you're going to have to pay and things that you're going to have to think about as far as living spaces is concerned when you move to New York. Now, next, I'm going to talk about how expensive eating can be. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but briefly. A lot of people talk about how there is food everywhere. You can get whatever you want at any moment in time in New York City, whether that's delivery, maybe you can walk down the street. While that might be true, you're gonna pay the price for it.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
So, I live next to a couple of supermarkets. I don't know their names, but I don't know, maybe C-Town, maybe Food Bazaar. But nonetheless, these places are insanely expensive. I promise you, you can go into there and grab 5 items and it will be $60. I don't care what it is.
No.
Everything okay, ma'am?
It's just that you've only scanned a few items and it's already $60. I'm so scared.
Okay, I'm a trained professional, ma'am. I've scanned a lot of groceries. I need you to stay with me. Take a deep breath. We're about to do the cheese.
Oh my God! The numbers are going up so fast!
So if you can get yourself to a Trader Joe's, good luck going there, because it is literally like Hunger Games or 300 or Sparta. Every time you go in there, you got to hold on to you got to clutch your pearls every time you go in there. So if you can't get to an Aldi, a Trader Joe's, or a Walmart, I highly suggest getting a food service or really doing your research on where you're getting your food, because you might think that the local market has great stuff or the local market has great deals, but they're probably ripping you off because these prices are sky high. And also, if you're thinking about eating out, obviously you can do Uber Eats or DoorDash or any type of delivery service. Businesses are probably going to deliver almost any time of day or any time of night, but the fees associated with that are insane. So eating here can be expensive, so I definitely recommend going to an alternative store as opposed to going to the local supermarket down the block, because they're going to charge you a lot. God, I am thirsty.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
The second thing that I want to talk about is how competitive New York City can be. Now, I don't mean to discourage you when I say that, but I'm just being honest. There's 8 million people that live in this city, and a lot of people either come here for a job or they come here to chase a dream, whether that's be a musician, a comedian, a dancer, an actor, a director, a singer, it doesn't matter. Very many people come here for a variety of reasons, and you have to keep that in mind. That is something that I personally had to learn along my journey. As I look around, there are so many other like-minded people. I promise for every idea that you have, there's a line wrapped around the block of 100 or maybe even more other people who have the same idea and who may be even further along on that idea than you. But it doesn't matter. You still have to go for it. You just have to know that this is an extremely competitive place. Arguably one of the most competitive places in the country, if not the planet. There is an abundance of talent here. I remember, and I was talking to a recruiter a couple of weeks ago, and he asked where I was located, and I told him that I was in New York City. And it was an interesting conversation because he literally candidly told me that the Chicago area, the Boston area, the New York City area is flooded with talent. His client that he was working with literally told him to stop sending them talent from those areas. And he kind of said without saying, hey, if you live in areas like Atlanta or maybe Philadelphia, there would be some opportunities there. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to New York City. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that. Yes, there's a lot of community, and yes, there's a lot of like-minded individuals and people that you may share passion and dreams and goals with. But at the same time, they are also your competition. That doesn't mean that you can't collaborate them, because I definitely encourage collaboration, but it just needs to be said that you have to prepare yourself for the competition that you're going to face if you are a dream chaser or if you are very goal oriented, because people here are go-getters and they bring their A game, and you're going to have to bring it too. So the third thing that I want to talk about is actually how lonely New York City can be. Even though it's a city of 8 million people, this is a city that can feel lonely real fast, even if you're surrounded by people. I remember when I was 25 years old and it was the winter time and I was living with some strangers. I really didn't like my living dynamic and had only been away from home for maybe like 6 to 9 months. And this was the longest that I had ever been this far away from home. Now, granted, I was grown, or so some would say, at 25, but nonetheless, I felt more lonely than I had ever been, and I was so confused because I was always and constantly surrounded by people. Even when I went to work, because I worked in Times Square at the time on 42nd Street, right in the middle of Times Square. So every day I was surrounded by thousands of people. And remember, this was before, so there was tons of people in the office and everybody was outside. But I didn't have my friends. I didn't have that sense of community that I had left behind. And I remember sitting in my room. I did have my sister here. My sister was here, but outside of her, I didn't have anybody. And I remember telling her how lonely I was and how much I missed my friends and how hard it was to make friends as an adult. That was a very difficult time, but I ultimately got through it. But the message is that it can be lonely here. But if you want to find a community and if you want to find friendship, then you have to be intentional about it. You have to go out there and say, you know what? I'm going to make a friend today. I'm going to find somebody like-minded today. I'm going to have positive energy today and attract some people my way. You have to go out there with that intention, and you have to go outside, whether that's an event, whether that's a party, whether that's the bar down the street, whether that's, I don't know, the beach or the park. Go hang out with real people. Go hang out with people that you don't know so you can start to develop some genuine connections. Because if you stay inside all day, I promise you this can be a lonely city very, very, very quickly. And you won't have anybody to just go get a coffee with or just go for a walk with or go have a beach date with. So many people talk about how they're so lonely and they don't have friends here. And I totally get it. As we get older, it can be tough to find friends, especially in this city, because New York, everyone is so busy. Everyone has a job, maybe even 2 or 3, and they have a side hustle. They might have a partner. They might have a pet. They're doing so many different things. And even in my experience with my friends, they're so hard to pin down. We can't even line up because everyone's so busy and trying to chase their dreams. So I don't say that to discourage you. I want you to keep it in mind, because if you do come here, just be intentional about everything that you do and really do New York and really live New York. And the friendships that you can develop during the way can turn into a lifelong friendship. And I didn't even talk about the dating part. That's something that I will touch on a little bit later. Can't lie, been out the game for a little bit, so I don't really know what's going on. Probably why I haven't touched that topic. But let me know in the comments what y'all want to talk about. But before I end this video, I'm just going to go off on a couple more things that didn't quite make the list, but I just want to let you know. If you're thinking about bringing a car to New York, please think twice. Now, I should probably take my own advice when it comes to this, but I promise you, I drove like my whole life, so I'm willing to take the consequences that come with it. But if you got out-of-state plates, you're going to get a ticket. If you don't move it for street sweeping, you're going to get a ticket. If you're parked in front of a pump or fire hydrant, which I had to learn, you're going to get a ticket. Also, the no standing sign means you cannot park there, you cannot idle there, you cannot be there at any point in time. I remember when I first moved here and I went to my first trip on Trader Joe's. I've been here maybe 3 weeks. I came outside, my car was gone. Block filled with cars, my car was the only one gone. And guess what? I was the only one with out-of-state plates, and I guarantee you that's why they took it. I remember going to pick it up, and he said, yeah, you better sell it and buy a bike. I was like, oh my God. Also, people drive like it's another country here, so you better be a defensive driver, and you better go as soon as that light turns green, because they are going to be beeping at you. You're going to be cussing you out. It's crazy. And you better learn how to park too. So that's pretty much it. I'm probably going to drop a part 2 to this, or maybe drop maybe a things people don't tell you in a good way version about New York. But drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know down below what you want me to talk about, because I'm open to anything. If you made it this far, thank you. And if you like this video, like this video. It helps me go a long way and helps me continue to bring content like this to you. So I appreciate you all, and peace.